The international break is over, thankfully, and first stop Molineux alongside Dean Smith, bringing us updates. 4-5 Live Sports is Maz Faruqi. Wolves versus Liverpool is the first one up then on a day where there are 7 Premier League fixtures, and Maz, both teams will be keen to put in a performance today.
Absolutely, but Liverpool are the favourites, I think, James, given how well they've started the season. They could go top of the Premier League, of course, for the time being, at least with a win here. Wolves have found a few more goals in the last few games, but Gary O'Neill is still getting to know his players, I think, and the atmosphere here feels far from that from the 3-0 win for Wolves over Liverpool in this fixture here at Molineux back in February. No Virgil van Dijk or the injured Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool today, of course. 2 changes for Wolves from their defeat at Palace before the international break. In come Hwang Hee-chan and Jean-Luc Bellegarde. They're signing from Strasbourg. Out go Pablo Zarabia and Fabio Silva.
Maz, thank you very much indeed. Looking forward to that one, which kicks off in just under an hour's time. Rangers at St Johnstone also kicks off at 12:30 in the Scottish Premiership, and then into the rest of the day's action, where Around the Ground service with Ian Dennis and our team of reporters up and down the land and the leagues from 3 is based at West Ham hosting Manchester City. That's our first commentary game before Newcastle versus Brentford from 5:30 after Sports Report. Eddie Howe's side, by the way, off the back of 3 straight defeats before that international break.
Let's go to Molineux. First game of the day, Wolves against Liverpool. Maz Faruqi.
Yeah, the atmosphere not quite feeling like it did at full time when these two last played each other in the league. That was a 3-0 win for Wolves back in February, although there was a big cheer a couple of minutes ago for an incident involving Peter Crouch. Gary O'Neill still getting to know his players, I think it's fair to say, and he makes 2 changes to the 11 that lost at Palace before the international break. Pablo Zarabia and Fabio Silva dropping to the bench. Jean-Luc Bellegarde, their new signing from Strasbourg, and Hwang Hee-chan coming in. No suspended Virgil van Dijk or injured Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool, of course, which means there's a first start at the back for Jarell Quansah, 20 years old, squad number 78. The other changes for Liverpool from the Villa win are up front. Diogo Jota and Cody Gakpo coming in. Jota, of course, a former Wolves player. Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz, both named as substitutes.
Alongside Maz this afternoon, former Villa, Norwich and Leicester manager Dean Smith. Afternoon, Dean.
Afternoon, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, the producer of this show this afternoon is a Villa fan, so in my notes, the very first thing he has put in is ask Dean if Gary O'Neill's been in touch asking for a game plan to stick 7 past Liverpool.
I mean, that was only 3 years ago, but it feels a lot longer.
He's clinging on to it, Dean. He's clinging on to it. They're in really good form, aren't they, Liverpool?
They are, yeah. They look like they've evolved as a team. Last season was a bit of a sketchy season for them. It was a sketchy season for a lot of teams because of, in between there was the World Cup. I think people forgot as well they'd, lost out on the title by a point to City. They lost in the Champions League final. And they really look like they've found their way at the start of this season already. I really liked them at Newcastle when they went down to 10 men, funny enough. Sorry about that, Alan, but...
Just getting over that, thanks.
But yeah, I thought they looked really solid and, a bit more like the athleticism that you used to see when they won the title a few years ago.
I mentioned this on the Monday Night Club a couple of weeks ago, Alan, because in one way it does seem kind of surprising that they are on the longest unbeaten run in the whole of the Premier League at the moment. 15 Premier League games they're on without defeat. And that, bizarrely, that does appear to have gone under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, but what that also does for you as a player and as a team, and certainly as a manager, I guess, is that it gives the whole team belief. When you've had a bit of a tough spell, which by their own very high standards they did last season, and then also I agree with Dean, I mean, getting that result at Newcastle must have been huge for them. They dug in there. They had to show a lot of character, and the changes were made at the right time that he made, Jurgen, and they go and get that great result. But one thing for certain, I think they'll be tested today, particularly without Van Dijk and without Trent. We know what they can do for them both defensively and attacking wise, particularly Trent. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on today.
And I suppose, Dean, their evolution that you talked about has definitely been more an offensive evolution than a defensive evolution at this stage. Maybe the defensive evolution is still to come next summer.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, they've brought in some really good players, especially the offensive players. You've got a few players who've left now, who are probably getting to the latter stages of their career, like the Fabinho, Henderson, Firmino. Milner, Keita, but the players who they've been bringing in, last season, Núñez and Gakpo, have been really good, and I really like the signing of McAllister as well in midfield. He brings that's been their engine room. It's the one that stops the opposition playing an awful lot, and as you say, the evolution, it looks good at the moment for them. I know I listened to Jurgen in the week, and he was saying, this is the start of, the beginning of the new Liverpool, so to speak.
Are you surprised, Dean, by how quickly they've managed to do with it? I mean, given your experience within the game, some people, when they talk about transition periods or having to move from one era to the other, talk about 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, they appear, and I realise there may still be some vulnerabilities within this Liverpool team, but they appear to have done a lot of that rebuilding within the space of 12 months.
They have, but I think it's been easier because you've still got the likes of Van Dijk, you've got Trent, you've got Salah, you've got Jota, who's been there over the 3 years now. They help that transition period for the other players to come in, and it becomes a lot easier when you've got, I think 5 or 6 of this team may have played against my Villa team when we beat them 7-2. Yeah. So, it's still a team that's been there for, or a lot of the players have been there for a few years.
And also, Dean, I think it probably was a bit of a frustrating transfer window for them, because 2 of their main targets they couldn't get, of course, with Caicedo going to Chelsea. It was it,
and Lavia going to Chelsea.
Absolutely. So it was a tough one for them to take, because they also got a little bit of criticism for the way they went around it. So for them to start in the way they have done, I think that's another positive.
Yeah, definitely. That will give them a big lift, because they missed out on some big players that they wanted, and to get the results that they've had, I think they drew the first game against Chelsea, and then they've won the last 3. Yeah.
I think the big side of that is with the defensive midfield recruitment. Obviously, they brought Endo in on the short term from Stuttgart to play that position, but all reports are that Andre's going to join from Fluminense, and he is a player that is absolutely outstanding in his ball winning and how he controls the play. If they can get that done, then they've had a great 18 months in terms of the transfers.
Yeah, they certainly have. I think they're going to be right up there this season with Arsenal and City.
Why? What are Andre's stats?
They're just very, very dominant. Talking like top 1% of players with the ball at his feet.
What, in the world?
The final third in South America. Right. So you've got to break these kind of metrics down within their sphere. So obviously, from applying that to the European football, the Brazilian league for those types of midfielders is quite good. So someone's going to pick him up, and he'll be a player where we look at him and go, why has nobody bought this guy? He's going to stay at Fluminense because they're in the Copa Libertadores semi-final, I believe, the last time I looked. Probably got to check that one out as well, Mark. But he's a player that I absolutely love. He's a player that will be playing Premier League football.
How times have moved on. The metrics of the sphere. Hey, Dean, when we were playing, eh?
Well, I have all the recruitment guys talking to me about South American players. I'm like, I haven't got time to watch that.
But actually, on that though, Dean, if somebody did bring, if your recruitment department did bring a South American player to you, after how long would you then step in to have a look?
Well, what we would normally do is would profile the positions that we want first and foremost. Yeah. And then it's down to the recruitment team to bring us the 5 best ones. But the big word I always say, before they come to me, they've got to be actionable. Don't be wasting my time with players that we can't get. And then they would present them to us so we could have a look at them, and then I would want to speak to them and meet them, because that you get a good feel of how you would work with them as well. So there'd be a lot of work being done before you actually go into it.
When you say, just a final one, and I know I say this every time I ask you these questions, some people think I'm taking the mickey, but I'm not. I'm genuinely interested. What are the metrics for the ball at someone's feet?
So let's take a look at Andre as an example. So
that's who we were talking about.
So he's in the top 1% of players for passes completed. So the ball at his feet, he's completing 72 passes per 90, which is very, very high at a 93% completion rate. So those are numbers that are very, very good within that sphere. The progressive distance is good. The total distance carried is good. So it's like looking at numbers that you would profile a midfielder to want. You want a midfielder to pass, to carry the ball in certain moments, to win tackles and to control the play and play the progressive passes, Mark, that you love.
Yeah, okay. But I was reading an article this week about how low Bruno Fernandes's pass completion rate is because of the difficulty of pass that he tries. That was what the article was saying. So therefore, how do you balance that?
If I was looking at Bruno Fernandes as a player, I'd say that he needs to do the short and medium passes better, in a sense, especially in his own half. If you look at his completion rate in his own half, if you compare that to Kevin De Bruyne came from Wolfsburg, was very, very direct. Was quite similar in that sense. Guardiola's sorted out the small things. You spoke this week about Mateus Nunes and sorting out the small things. So that's what you do with Bruno Fernandes, is you'd sort out the things where he's losing the ball when he shouldn't be losing the ball.
But can you grade the different passes? Are they taken into account
so
on these
you can
metrics?
have smart passes, progressive passes, key passes.
Right.
What about if your team are dominating passes very much like Manchester City do every single week, and you get the ball and someone's passing it 10 yards, and then his pass completion rate is going to be sky high?
Would be super high, but it's not. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. Obviously, if they're you'd look at a number of different passing metrics to analyse that. If the pass completion's high, it's being progressed, then you can't just build it on one statistic, I think, is the answer to the question. That would be naive. And then from that point, you've got to look at the tape. Like, you can't just look at a player from numbers. You have to see whether that actually makes sense.
I think the crux of it is you can make stats what you want of them, positive or negative.
Well, you can make them get you on the Warehouse Project guest list. That's what you can do. Are you still awake, Dean?
Yeah, just woken up now.
I tell you what, he goes into an extra gear when there are managers on the show, does Dave, in the hope of getting a job. So
listen, I worked at Brentford for 3 years, so I know all stats.
Let's go from the intricacies of the stats to what time a game kicks off. Liverpool not particularly keen on 12:30 kickoffs, particularly after international breaks. Jurgen Klopp also doesn't particularly like being asked about them.
Are serious with the question? What do you mean? What is the difference when you play 30 hours ago in Bolivia? That's not a problem if you're a normal week. We always said that. The only problem is the lack of recovery time. We have 4 international breaks until March. 2 of them we have already the 12:30 kickoff. If I say a word about it, then the whole world goes again. He starts moaning again. This is a joke. We have players in South America. I didn't see them yet. In 24 hours we play. But it's like it is. We cannot change that. We will never change that. Obviously, the TV channel has now a different name, but that doesn't change, obviously, anything at all. They just don't give about that.
When I first saw this or heard this, Alan, I thought exactly as he said, oh no, he's moaning again. But actually, when you put the context to it after an international break, you kind of get the point, don't you?
Yeah, I get his point. But there's also a point where there's a reason why Liverpool can go out and spend as much as they do, and that's one of the reasons, because of the huge money that the TV companies are putting into the Premier League. But he's looking after his team. He's the coach of his team. He has to speak out as he sees it. But there is another point also, which I've just mentioned. I get both points.
I suppose the argument, Dean, would be, well, Wolves will have had players missing too.
Yeah, both teams will have been missing players. I think for Jurgen, it seems to be Liverpool seem to have a lot of 12:30 kickoffs. Along with that, it's probably the routine as well for players. Your pre-match meal's normally 3.5 hours before a game, so all of a sudden, are you having breakfast? Are you getting up at 7 for breakfast, or are you just having one meal before you play? So players like routine as well, and I think the 12:30 probably knocks them out of that a little bit.
What I mean is 12:30. Is that from your time? Would that be your least favoured kickoff time because of that routine and chicken and pasta for breakfast rather than whatever you do? I was going to say rather than a bacon sandwich. But you don't have a bacon sandwich for your breakfast, but rather than your standard footballer breakfast.
I think so. Yeah. I mean. The later kickoffs you could deal with. I mean, you had to kill a lot of time during the day for them. Some managers would get you in and do some set pieces sometimes just to break up the day, and I've done that myself. But I just think even for punters, the fans, they finish work on a Friday night, they're going out for a few beers, and then they've got to be up at 8 o'clock again, and ready for another game, and probably not get as many beers as they would normally have before they watch.
It's a good job they didn't put the fixture last night then, like Bayern Munich.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So it's not just Liverpool, is it?
No, it's not at all.
And all the big clubs must know, you sign a player from South America, they're going to be doing probably more travelling than if you sign.
And all the bigger clubs have got the biggest squads with the better players. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And as you say, there's an argument for both sides. We had players at Villa, Douglas Luiz, we had Buendia, Martinez, who were all travelling over to South America. And you don't see them until the day before the game, but that's part and parcel of it because, as Alan says earlier, the television companies are the ones who are putting the big money in.
Has the game begun at Molineux, Maz?
Yeah, 5 minutes in, 0-0. Wolves, though, have started quite brightly. Their new signing, Jean-Ric Bellegarde, with some good pace as Hwang Hee-chan just fails to run onto the ball into the area down the right-hand side. But Jean-Ric Bellegarde winning the first corner of the game for Wolves. And Dean Smith, we both looked at each other when he made his run forward down the left-hand channel and gave a little nod to each other. He looks impressive, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He's just playing in the 10 role at the moment, and he's got on the ball a few times and run at Liverpool. Liverpool have been very slow in their build-up so far, and Wolves haven't really jumped to press them. So it looks like Liverpool will have the majority of possession, but when Wolves get it, they look bright.
And another point as well, just to flag as well, Alexis McAllister already been booked for a shirt tug on Cunha as Wolves were making a move forward, and you thought that was a little bit harsh as well.
I did. I mean, it's 5 minutes into the game. I think it was a Liverpool player, right behind him, Betts coming for the tackle, but he stole Michael as early.
So 0-0 with about 6 minutes on the clock here, Mark.
Some of those guys are massive, by the way, chappers.
Hold it there. We'll come back to this because the deadlock has been broken at Molineux and the cheers will tell you which way. Maz Faruqi.
Hwang Hee-chan with a toe poke at the right-hand post. Really, really good move this from Neto down the left-hand side for Wolves. He was strong, he was powerful, made the run into the area. The cut back across the face of goal. Very simple finish for Hwang Hee-chan into just inside the right-hand post. Dean Smith, exactly what you're saying with Wolves making the most of their opportunities when they come to them.
It was one of the first times Liverpool had actually broke into the Wolves half, and a good tackle from Aitmore. He won the ball back and they advanced up the pitch, and Neto, really good ball carrier, and he squared him up in the box. I thought he was going to win a penalty, but he got past him and put it to the far post, and a good finish.
And Jurgen Klopp is gesticulating wildly to his Liverpool players at the edge of his technical area because his side trail in the opening 10 minutes here. Wolves 1, Liverpool 0.
That's a phenomenal run, Dean, isn't it?
Great run. He's a really good ball carrier, Neto. He squares him up, and there's nothing the defender can do, otherwise he gives a penalty away. And a great ball across.
The August goal of the month was scored by Matoma of Brighton at Wolves on a very similar amazing run. Of course, he finished it that day, but that's a great goal. Dave, what have you got?
Pedro Neto's now got 4 assists in the Premier League this season, which is more than any other player, and he's beaten every other season he's managed in the Premier League season apart from 2021 year.
Okay, Liverpool behind at Molineux, less than 10 minutes on the clock. Wolves are really on top here, Maz, aren't they?
They really are. A couple of decent chances, really. Neto with that really good assist, as we were talking about, perhaps should have done better, but just a toe poke off from the Liverpool defenders just to take the ball away from in the area. Semedo with a dangerous ball into the area from the right-hand side as well. Wolves really on top at the moment, but at the moment just the 1 goal lead.
Let's go back to Molineux. Maz, any sign of another goal?
Not at the moment. Wolves still playing very, very well. Good chance for Neto, ended up being a yard or so wide of the left-hand post, but Wolves haven't taken their foot off the accelerator in terms of trying to find a second. Liverpool with some nice intricate passes in the Wolves half, but I still make it no shots on target for Liverpool yet, Dean, and they really are holding their own at the moment, it seems, Wolves.
Yeah, they've had one little bit of good play between Gakpo and Salah crossed for Jota on the half volley, put it over. It was a half chance really, but Wolves have been really good. They're kind of forcing Liverpool into the middle of the pitch, and then they're jumping on. Alex McAllister's been robbed a couple of times. Matip stepped in once and got robbed as well. They've just got a little bit loose with their passing when they've won it back at Wolves at the moment.
Yeah, and remember McAllister is on a yellow already, that coming in the opening minutes, so he's got a long afternoon ahead carrying that caution. Still Wolves 1, Liverpool 0, 27 minutes on the clock.
Let's just do one on Wolves here. We'll come back to it as well though, Dean, we're going to talk EFL in a moment, but given Gary O'Neill had less than a week to start with these players, not just today, but how impressed have you been with some of Wolves' football already this season?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked them last season with Lopetegui. They had a real good structure about them. I think Gary's trying to work with them a lot more with the ball and how they can go and hurt teams. They've been really structured here. They've shown them inside. It's been really tough for them. You go into a club without a pre-season, wow. And I thought they played really well first day at Manchester United and should have got something out of the game. They just give a couple of sloppy goals away against Palace. They've got a break on now as well.
Yeah, Neto's dispossessed McAllister. He's on the break down the right-hand side into the area, looking for support though from other players. Oof. And eventually he is dispossessed there. McAllister doing well to win back the ball and then goes down under a challenge. But another nervy moment there potentially for Liverpool on the break.
Wolves should really be too up, Maz.
What a chance for Cunha. Dean Smith's got his head in his hands like me here. Neto again with the lovely floating ball from the left to the far post. Cunha there. I'm not sure, did he hit the post, Dean Smith? That was such a good chance. We're just looking at the replay monitor here.
Again, Neto takes Gomez on and he just stands the ball up at the far post and he just mistimes it. I think he thinks Matip's going to get a touch and he just hits him on the chin rather than heading it.
Almost kind of a miss hit there. Almost kind of comes off his chin and his chest and then just dribbles.
It's a big
not
chance.
Where he wants it to be, and Liverpool are able to get it clear, and Gary O'Neill knows that's a big chance as well on the touchline. Wolves are doing really well here, but still only with the 1 goal advantage.
Let's go back to Molineux. Good game this, Maz.
Yeah, really good game. Wolves still leading by 1-0. Liverpool seeing a bit more of the ball, but still no real chances in front of goal to get an equaliser in this game. And Gary O'Neill, I think, will really feel that his players, as Gakpo heads over the crossbar, should be further ahead. Dean Smith, as well as our producer being a big Aston Villa fan and talking to you about Aston Villa ahead of kick-off, he's also sent us a tweet here. Somebody's written, watching McAllister here, you think he played 12,000 feet above sea level about 50 hours ago and then flew 6,000 miles to get home. Funny that.
Yeah, I know. And he looks like he's got a journey in him at the moment as well. I love him as a player. I think he's a fantastic footballer. Without the ball at the moment, he's been caught in possession a couple of times and, struggled to track back a couple of times as well. So, but that is understandable when you hear that sort of distance he's been travelling.
And obviously, of course, some big players on the bench for Liverpool potentially we could see in the second half. I guess if the scoreline stays like this, they've been warming up as well on the touchline. Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez among them. Liverpool still trailing by 0-0. 45 minutes on the clock now.
Home fans are happy at Molineux. Half-time whistle has gone. Mas Faruqi.
Yeah, they lead Wolves here over Liverpool 1-0 at half-time. Gary O'Neill, I'm sure, will be delighted with the performance of his players in this first half, but perhaps wishing his side had the bigger advantage. The goal coming very early on. Hwang Hee-chan with a simple finish at the far post after a lovely cutback from Pedro Neto, who has been outstanding for Wolves this half. But Wolves haven't sat back since that goal. A couple of other really good chances, notably that one for Matheus Cunha at the same post, the right-hand post, half an hour in. At the other end, very little on target for Liverpool. Jota blasting over, Gakpo wide, some players having to be brave in their area at the end. Wolves blocking some shots from Salah, and in particular, they are only a goal behind, but two contrasting team talks coming up at half-time, Dean Smith.
Yeah, I think so. I think Wolves will be disappointed that they're not just a goal ahead. They've had some really good opportunities. They've got in the final third really well from counter-attacks. As you said, Neto's been outstanding, and it's just been that final finish. Kuna's just had a really good run and should have done better with his effort. But it could have nearly been 1-1 at the end. Sars come out for the cross and missed it, but the defenders put their bodies on the block, which you would expect from Kilman and Dawson, and they fully deserve the lead at half-time, but they'll be probably a bit disappointed it's not more.
For Liverpool, though, of course, only down by 1-0, so that's something for them to try and build on in the second half. Wolves 1, Liverpool 0 at half-time.
Straight to Molineux. Liverpool has started the second half much better. Mas Faruqi.
They have, and they've got the equaliser. Cody Gakpo, wheeling weight, celebrating. We're just watching the replay monitor here, and yes, he is onside. He's being played onside there by, I think it's Dawson there, as he makes the run into the area, and it's a very simple finish for him. Liverpool had looked a lot better at the start of the second half, as you were saying. McAllister, who looked like a player frankly playing with jet lag in the first half, replaced by Luis Diaz. Slight tweak in formation as well, perhaps, we think, Dean Smith, which has made the difference for Liverpool in the second half.
Yeah, he's brought McAllister off and he's switched the midfield. He's actually gone 4-2-4, so he's got 4 on the top line now, and Wolves have hardly got out of their half in the second half, and they've looked dangerous, Liverpool. Diaz Diaz had a good headed chance right at the start of the second half, and then they've just got a deserved equaliser there.
And a couple of subs, I think, as well. I think Jota and Gakpo, actually, the two substitutions that Liverpool have made their second and third. Darwin Núñez and Harvey Elliott, I believe, the two players that have come on. I'll just double check that for you. But yeah, Liverpool back level now, 55 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, Harvey Elliott and Darwin Núñez have come on. It has been that, hasn't it, Dean? In many ways, right, we're just going to be on the front foot, and hopefully that stifles them.
Yeah, the fullbacks have had more licence to get forward, and they've just created a box in the middle of the pitch where Wolves were really strong in the first half, and now, you know, they've played a four up. Even Elliott, it always surprised me because he was going to make a change before they scored, whether he was going to, you know, change his mind, but he didn't. He brought the two off, and the other two have just replaced them like for like.
Whoa, I tell you what, let's just go back to Maz, because Liverpool could have been 2-1 up.
Oh, Darwin Núñez perhaps should have done a lot better with that. Some bodies on the line from Wolves in their area there. They just couldn't get the ball clear from their area, and Darwin Núñez with a couple of chances there couldn't poke it home. I mean, Liverpool have been a lot better in this second half, as they now have just won a corner just on this left-hand side as they attack from right to left in the second half. But there was an interesting moment, Dean Smith, where real frustration from Mo Salah from a pass, a wayward pass from Darwin Núñez. So they are playing better, Liverpool, but it's certainly not all roses at the moment for them.
No, it's not. I mean, you could see the frustration from him. He wanted the pass in front of him, and he went behind him out of play. But Liverpool have been good second half. Again, I think Kilman puts him off there with a slide in front, but Liverpool have been good second half.
And Robertson's just taking this corner for Liverpool just on this left-hand side. Heads go up, but Wolves are able to get it clear, so still 1-1 here at the moment.
I mean, it's just what Dean said there, really. Is that a goal?
No, it's a decision from Michael Oliver that the Wolves fans don't agree with.
Well, they seem quite.
They are very annoyed about it. Should we?
They seem.
Maz?
Yeah, Gary O'Neill absolutely furious with that. He felt that it was the Bosley went down clutching his ankle that he was making the most of that because Wolves were on a break, and the home fans definitely agreeing with him, and he's going to have words with the fourth official now, Gary O'Neill, so definitely not happy with that one, the Wolves boss.
But also a Wolves clearance has just hit Michael Oliver's backside as well, so that's why the boos continue. Any sign of either side going ahead, Maz?
Well, Wolves have made a couple of changes, and it's kind of given them some energy, some impetus, some fresh impetus going forward. Manchester City, Loney, Tommy Doyle's come in the last couple of minutes, and Wolves are looking brighter going forward in the last couple of minutes, Dean. Yeah, I think the subs have helped Wolves. They've suddenly started getting the ball a little forward, a little bit quicker. They just won the ball there with Silva and got into the Liverpool penalty area, and a good block. I think Kwanzaa's down at the moment with cramp. It's his first start, I think, so probably not unexpected.
You could see either side nicking this, couldn't you, Dean?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it's the last 5 or so minutes have been quite a few changes of personnel, and the subs have changed the momentum of the game because it was going one way with Liverpool.
Let's go straight back to Molineux. We did say either side could nick this. Maz Faruqi.
And after the first half they had, what a turnaround. Liverpool have the lead. Andy Robertson with the winner probably now. We're in the 85th minute. And the away fans are going absolutely bonkers. He's gone to celebrate in front of them. A really nice finish that from the Scottish captain, Dean.
Yeah, great finish. I mean, Sarr's come and took a great cross from the corner, and then he's tried to rush it and get Neto free. He's miskicked it slightly. They've won it, and a great little 1-2 into Salah. Kept going with his run, and a great finish.
Yeah, and Salah hasn't been at his best this afternoon, but some really good link-up play there with Andy Robertson. And with 5 minutes on the clock plus stoppage time, of course, Wolves were leading the opening minutes, but now they're trailing 2-1 here to Liverpool.
That was all Andy Robertson, Dean. I mean, he brought the ball forward from the sort of scuffed goal kick and played the 1-2, didn't he? It's
probably one of the longest 1-2s I've seen. but it was a great 1-2, an accomplished finisher as well. But as I say, I think Sarr's rushed it and miskicked it slightly, but yeah, Robertson's brought it down. It will make up for the goal he gave away against England, I suppose, in a week.
What you could say, Glenn, here is just from a Wolves perspective is that it's deja vu, isn't it? The number of times already this season that it's felt like they've dominated a game for spells, they've had chances, they haven't taken them, and they come away with nothing.
Well, I think the other one was Manchester United, wasn't it, on the opening weekend
Crystal
of the season.
Palace, they had plenty of chances when they lost 3-2 before the international break.
But I think that Wolves got a bit of a hard bargain at the start of the season. Everyone sort of said Wolves are going to get relegated, the manager walked out, but I think Gary O'Neill's got that team playing really well, and once he can iron out those mistakes and just make them a little bit more clinical, a bit more composure in front of goal, the performances are there, and that's the most positive part of it, I think. So keep performing well and things will change.
But are we going to be in a situation, Dean, where we're having the same discussions about Wolves that we've had virtually since Raul Jimenez's head injury, about how and this has been under a variety of head coaches with various players tried through the middle, about how they convert the chances they create?
Yeah, they've not had so many in the second half. I thought they got in really good areas first half. Neto was their outstanding player. They look like they're very organised. They look like they have a really good structure about them. Kilman and Dawson do well at centre-back. It's where you're going to produce the goals from, because you've got to score goals to win games.
Interestingly, as I asked that question, the TV director cut up Mateus Cunha on the bench, just looking to the heavens and shaking his head as he had a couple of the chances. Dave?
Mohamed Salah's now registered 14 goals plus assists in his last 11 Premier League games, but he also now has 63 assists in the Premier League, which is 2 more than any other African players managing the competition.
Back to West Ham and Manchester City. Steve Sidwell at the London Stadium. Do you think, that Liverpool goal's quite big actually already in cutting or going ahead of Manchester City, but are you already looking at City and Guardiola talking about them having to be switched on and set the pace? Do you already see a scenario where they could disappear over the horizon?
I think they're the team to beat this season. The standard that they've set, the way that they've changed, the way that they've played as well, in terms of churning games out, being a bit more direct, being a bit more robust, and then they can just flick to, keeping wonderful possession and dissecting teams to pieces. So for me, they're the team. I see the others just, I don't want to say stumbling over the line for a top 4 finish, but I don't see them really giving them a real threat.
And I'm just going to jump in because it's all over at Molineux now. Maz.
Harvey Elliott with the third for Liverpool from the edge of the area. I think it took a deflection off a Wolves player as it went into the back of the net, because Jose Sá didn't really move, and Wolves actually had a player down injured as well in the centre of the pitch as Liverpool were going forward. So certainly that's another thing that Gary O'Neill will not be happy about. But Liverpool just doing what they need to do in the second half, Dean, and getting all 3 points now. Yeah,
they've been better for second half. They weren't there in the first half. Darwin's held Dawson off really well, and then he slipped it through to Salah, who's just set it back for Harvey Elliott, and I'm not quite sure whether it did get deflected, but he's put it in the bottom corner. Yeah, it's slightly deflected off the post and in. It's been tough for Wolves second half, especially after all they're playing the first half. But it'll be interesting to see. Darwin looked like he held off Dawson really well, but Dawson doesn't usually stay down too long, so it'll be interesting to see that back.
He's still down, requiring treatment actually. The physio's with him at the moment. It was Hugo Bueno actually who stuck a leg out to try and get something on that ball, and that helped deflect that Harvey Elliott shot into the back of the net. So we're now into the 92nd minute. We've got 8 minutes of stoppage time at the end of this game here. Wolves 1, Liverpool 3.
The change of formation completely worked, didn't it, Dean, that Klopp did at half time? Yeah,
they've done it before as well. They changed kind of took a man out of midfield a little bit and emptied it a little bit, went 4 on the top line, and they've controlled the game since then, and Jurgen likes to control games, and they've had a lot of ball in the second half, and the 4 on the top line has kept Wolves trying to keep 5 back there, and it's just opened up for them.
So it's going to be all 3 points for Liverpool. Our base from 3 o'clock is the London Stadium. West Ham against Manchester City. Steve Sidwell alongside John Akers for that.